मनोबुद्ध्यहङ्कार चित्तानि नाहं न च श्रोत्रजिह्वे न च घ्राणनेत्रे न च व्योमभूमिर्न तेजो न वायु चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं न च प्राणसंज्ञो न वै पञ्चवायु न वा सप्तधातु न वा पञ्चकोश न वाक्पाणिपादं न चोपस्थपायु चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं न मे द्वेषरागो न मे लोभमोहो मदोर्नैव मे नैव मात्सर्यभावः न धर्मो न चार्थो न कामो न मोक्षः चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम् न पुण्यं न पापं न सौख्यं न दुःखं न मन्त्रो न तीर्थं न वेदा न यज्ञः अहं भोजनं नैव भोज्यं न भोक्ता चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं न मृत्युर्न शङ्का न मे जातिभेदः पिता नैव मे नैव माता न जन्म न बन्धो न मित्रं गुरो नैव शिष्यः चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम् अहं निर्विकल्पो निराकाररूपो विभूत्वाच्च सर्वत्र सर्वेन्द्रियाणां न च सङ्गतं नैव मुक्तिर्न मेया चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं 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 शिवोऽहम्
Chopra Foundation, and many yoga teachers and meditation teachers that are here. So, as you know, we've just launched something called the Longevity Experiment, and I just want to announce it once again. The experiment is launched. You can join it if you want to. And if you do, please go to Chopra Foundation, and the correct URL is longevity.choprafoundation.org. Correct? longevity.choprafoundation.org. And you can sign up. There are 3 levels that are available to you. One is all the information that we give. Everything from blood pressure to heart rate variability to skin thickness to immune function, endocrine function, sugar tolerance, and much, much more. These days, there are very sophisticated ways of looking at biological age, including the length of telomeres and what we call telomerase levels, the levels of the enzyme telomerase that regulates aging at the level of our genes. And the research is amazing. So we're going to be looking at every aspect of longevity. Can we live long without disease, infirmity? Do we have to have disease, infirmity? And can we even choose to die in meditation if we so want? So, a lot more on that when you join longevity.choprafoundation.org. So, today I thought as we explore consciousness, because that's the primary purpose of these satsangs, that we explore the nature of existence and the meaning of existence and the purpose of existence, and also try to understand how we experience existence. That's what we do over here, which is totally based on the teachings of Adi Shankara, the great tradition of Vedanta, Kashmir Shaivism, aspects of Buddhism, the Zen teachings of the Far East, and also, to a great extent, what we learn from the Gnostic Gospels in Christianity and what we learn from Sufi traditions in Islam. They all point to the same thing. So, Sufism in Islam, the Gnostic traditions of Christianity, the teachings of the Far East, Buddhism, some of the insights that come to us from the Old Testament are all very relevant. So we don't, we're not particularly attached to any one philosophy or theology. In fact, we want to go beyond philosophy and theology to direct experience and understanding. Because as long as we engage intellectually, then depending on our programming, our indoctrination, what we learned as kids, that will always influence our interpretation of theology, of the doctrines in various religions, and also how we interpret them. But if there's one thing that's common in all religious experience, and I'm not talking about theology, doctrine, or philosophy, if there's one thing common in all spiritual experience is the word, then three things stand out. Every person who's had a direct experience of reality, has the three following components to that experience. Number one, they find their identity, which is non-changing. So there's a part of you that never changes. And that becomes the anchor, that which never changes. We call that I. Before I say I am Deepak, I have a sense I exist. That is a non-changing I. I'll come to that in a moment, okay? The second component of the same experience is the emergence of what have been called Platonic values: truth, goodness, beauty, harmony, love, compassion, joy, equanimity. And the third component is the loss of the fear of death, because you find that the I that is seeking knowledge, does not exist in space-time. And therefore, it's not subject to birth or death. Only its experiences are subject to birth and death. So those are the three components of all spiritual experience. You want to call it spiritual experience, can't call it religious experience. Religious just means religio, going back to the source. Okay? If you look at the etymology of the word religio, ligature, going back to where we came from, then those are the three components. You find who I is. What is I? And you discover that in the experience of I, there is joy and connectedness and peace and harmony and laughter and love and all the things that humans seek. And the third is you lose the fear of death, because I is not subject to death. I am Deepak Chopra, certainly subject to death, okay, and to birth. But I, that which modifies itself symbolically as Deepak Chopra, is not subject to birth and death. So even as I explore this with you, and we'll see how that's relevant even to how we age and things like that, here's the biggest mystery, and the mystery is, who am I? Okay, who am I? If I ask you right now, where are you? And the normal response will be, I'm here. I'm here. Where is Deepak? I'm here. Where is Punacha? There. Where is John? There. So that's our experience of where I am, where I am. So somehow I is assumed to be inside the body, or maybe inside the brain. There's little Deepak somewhere here looking out through these eyes at the world. The problem is you can't find that little Deepak here. Okay. Even as I look at you, there'll be an activation of a neural network called the occipital cortex that will give me the experience of this room, of this body, etc. But who is looking? Right now, as I look at you, who or what is looking? And as you're looking at me, who or what is looking? This confuses the heck out of people who try to explain perception. So when I went to medical school, when you learn anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, ultimately biophysics, even math, the first thing that you learn is anatomy. Anatomy. You see a body. And in medical school, it's a dead body. So you get used to the idea that the body is anatomical. It's a frozen anatomical structure. And if the body is dead, then the soul has left. The observer, that which thinks, that which feels, that which looks, that which perceives, that which understands, is gone. So this is a dead body. Okay. So somehow, even in spiritual traditions, your soul is in your body. By soul, I mean that which thinks, that which feels, that which observes, that which has sensations, that which makes choices, that which moves. Right now, I'm speaking to you. Who is speaking? What is speaking? And who is listening? And I'm looking, so you are also looking. What is this entity that is looking? I say, it's me. Okay, and as soon as you say it's me, you assume there's somebody inside you in this body that is keeping it alive, and one day this will leave and then this body will disintegrate. Here's the problem: the observer, let's just call this entity the observer, the thinker, the observer, the perceiver, the seer, the knower. Doesn't matter what we call this entity, because soul is kind of unfashionable these days in a secular society. So, right now in cognitive science, this entity, the observer, is called a conscious agent. We can agree that we're all conscious and we're doing something. We're agents of perception, cognition, choice, movement, etc. So, where is this entity? Let's call it the observer, okay? Doesn't matter, or the knower, or the seer, conscious agent. Where is this? So, with all the technology we have today, and we have amazing technology, today you can take a carbon atom, you can radio label it, you can put it in a sugar molecule, then you can inject it into the bloodstream, and then you can tell the subject, okay, think of your grandmother, think of opening the garage door, think of chocolate ice cream, imagine a beautiful sunset, and then you can look inside the brain to see what's happening. That's called positron emission tomography, which means you can track thoughts in the brain, or what we call the neural correlate of thought. But who's thinking? That entity cannot be found. So in medical school, when we learn, say, vision, the assumption is that there are photons coming from, I'm looking at Carmen right now, so there are photons coming from Carmen's body to my eyes. And they're invisible. The photons have no color, no shape, no form that we know of. Okay, they're waves. And there are disturbances of the electromagnetic field which permeates all of space-time. So some of them are bouncing off her body. They're coming to my eyes, and they create some image in my retina. And the image is upside down, according to our current physiology. Problem is, there's no image in the retina. There's no picture of Carmen in my retina. All there is electrochemistry. And then that sends an electrical current to my brain. That electrical current is called an action potential. And there's crossover from the electrical current from here goes to the right side of the brain. The electrical current from here goes to the left, right. And then you have inverted images in the back of the brain, and somehow you see the world. Problem is, none of this is actually accurate. If there's, first of all, there's no image in the retina. Secondly, if there were images in the retina, you would be seeing two of me upside down and slightly curved because the retina is curved. Okay. You're not seeing two of me upside down and curved. You're seeing one of me and you're seeing this room also, and you're seeing your own body. Oh, no one can explain. Okay, no one can explain how this experience happens. I'm seeing colors, I'm seeing shapes, I'm seeing a room, I'm seeing the roof, I'm seeing my own body, I'm thinking, I'm speaking to you all at the same time. And meanwhile, my body is doing trillions of things. Every cell is doing trillions of things per second. How does a human body think thoughts, play a piano, kill germs, remove toxins, make a baby all at the same time while listening to this lecture and commenting on it? And at the same time, regulating blood pressure, immune function. It's mind boggling. Okay? Every cell is doing trillions of things per second. Not only is your cell doing trillions of things per second, every cell in your body knows what every other cell is doing. Otherwise, your body would fall apart. Okay? And all this is happening faster than the speed of light, literally faster than the speed of light. So when you eat food and you taste the food, immediately, oh, this is delicious. You digest the food, and suddenly, the liver is preparing itself to remove toxins. The brain is saying, this is satisfactory. I'm not hungry anymore. The heart is pumping some extra blood at the same time. So every experience in your body is what we can say synchronistic. Your body is thinking thoughts, maybe playing music, maybe digesting food, regulating its blood pressure, its immune function, its hormones, its body temperature. At the same time, if you happen to be pregnant, it's making a baby. At the same time, it's tracking the movement of stars because every biological rhythm in your body is a cosmic rhythm. Circadian rhythms as the earth moves and spins on its own axis, seasonal rhythms as the earth goes around the sun, gravitational rhythms as a result of the gravitational effects of the sun, moon, and the stars on the oceans. 70% of your body is ocean. And then also lunar rhythms, the complicated cycle of the sun, moon, and earth, all in relationship to each other. It's a symphony, literally a symphony. Your universe. It's very interesting that the word universe means one song, universe. So your biology is part of the one song. And your biology is dancing to that one song, even though you can't consciously hear the tune. There's a cosmic symphony happening right now. Stars are moving, Earth is spinning, moving around the sun, gravitational waves on the ocean are moving the water up and down in our body, lunar rhythms are happening, a horseshoe crab will come up from the depths of the ocean on a full moon night, even though it cannot see the full moon, it'll come to mate. So all of nature is part of the symphony. And we are part of the symphony. And we're dancing to it. Rumi. Don't think you're so small. You're the entire universe in ecstatic motion right now. And we think of ourselves as skin encapsulated egos dragging a body of flesh and bones. And oh, this is me, little me. But without you, you can't even have this understanding that you are the symphony of the cosmos. And this is basically the whole foundation of Ayurveda. The whole foundation of Ayurveda is based on one aphorism: Yatha Pinde Tatha Brahmande. Yatha Pinde Tatha Brahmande. As is the atom, so is the universe. As is the microcosm, so is the macrocosm. As is the human body, so is the cosmic body. So this, of course, very difficult to express in words. Poets can do it much better. So, Rumi, we come spinning out of nothingness, scattering stars like dust. Look at these worlds spinning out of nothingness. This is you. So, going back to what I was saying is, the observer cannot be found in the body. And yet you are observing your body right now. Who or what is this observer? Why cannot it be found in the body with all the technology we have? There can only be two explanations. One is there's no such thing as an observer. Well, that's very hard to believe. You are observing. I am observing. We are all observers. So the observer must exist. Otherwise, there wouldn't be an observation. So that's out. The only other possibility is you are not in the body. You are not in the body. The body is an experience in you. You're not in the mind. The mind is an experience in you. And you are not in the world. You're not in this universe. The universe is an experience in you. And again, in the Upanishads, one of the Upanishads is the Bhagavad Gita. Metaphorically, in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna represents the observer, or you would say consciousness. And his student, Arjuna, represents the ego, body, mind. So in there, there's an expression in Sanskrit, Prakritim Swambhashtavai Vishrajami Puna Puna. Translated, curving back within myself, I create again and again. Curving back within myself, I create again and again. I create the experience of the mind, I create the experience of the body, and I create the experience of the world. So, you're not in the body is in you. You're not in the mind is in you. You're not in the world is in you. So where is this you, I, that is observing, that is listening right now, that is thinking right now, that is perceiving right now, that is either agreeing with me or disagreeing with me? Where is this entity? It doesn't have a form. Okay. If it had a form, we'd be able to see it. Because it doesn't have a form, it's infinite. Anything that has a form is finite. And because it's infinite, it is not subject to birth and death. So what happens at death is you don't leave the body leaves you. Or we can say the experience of the body leaves you. Just like if, let's say, this room, if the walls collapse, the space is still there, except the boundaries of this room are not there. But the space inside this and the space outside is the same space. When you fly from New York to Tokyo in a plane, the space inside the room and the space outside the room doesn't move. Okay. So, what moves is a perceptual experience in the space that does not move. Similarly, you experience mind as thoughts and changing thoughts and feelings, but you don't move either in space or time. The body as an experience, sensations, images, feelings, thoughts, they appear to move, but in the bigger picture, even they don't move. They're fluctuations of consciousness perceived as movement. Okay. So these are ideas that are difficult to grasp, but when you do, there's a feeling of joy and liberation. So, where is consciousness right now? There are people now watching us, maybe in Tokyo, in Hong Kong. They're also having this experience that we are having. Where is all these observers? Because they are formless, they don't have a location, either in space or time. Okay. To have that experience is the beginning of liberation. To find out, I exist beyond space-time. Even space-time is an experience in me. Space-time is an experience in me. Okay, so now let's try a few things to get to a little bit of this I, a little glimpse of this I, okay? So as you're listening to me right now, and everybody online also, as you're listening to me, just be aware right now of that which is listening. As you're listening to me, be aware of that which is listening. That still presence is I. Not only as you're listening to me, as you're looking at me, be aware of who's looking. That still presence is I. Or, as you're looking at me, be aware of the space between us. And that still presence is right here in this space. Or you could observe the space between your fingers, or the space in a goblet, or the space between breath. Or you could become aware of the space between choice. Should I go this way? Should I go this way? Okay, who is me between this and this? Same presence. So when you start looking for I, seriously, as the still presence in every changing experience. Remember, experience is changing. Thoughts are coming and going. Emotions are coming and going. Perceptions are coming and going. The body molecules of your body are coming and going. The breath is coming and going. Everything is coming and going except the awareness in which all this comes and goes. Now, if you want to call this awareness divine presence, God, Allah, Brahman, Jesus, doesn't matter. There's a still presence in which all experience happens. And you are that still presence. Spiritual traditions call it the soul. So this presence that we feel right now, in this space between my thoughts, in the space between my choices, in the space between my perceptions, in the space between my breath, in the space between you and me, in the space between any experience, this presence is the eternal, timeless witness of all experience. And when we are grounded in this experience of witnessing awareness, we have found I. And we also found that I is not in time. I has no location in space. The same Upanishad, Krishna, says water cannot wet it, wind cannot dry it, weapons cannot shatter it, fire cannot burn it. It's ancient, it's unborn, and it is not subject to death. So the movement from I am this body, or I am this mind, or I am this perception, or I am this observation, or I am this thought, or I am this experience, the movement of that, or I am this personality, the movement of this identity from I am this or I am that to I am is the ticket to freedom. Only one thing: shift in identity from the provisional identity, provisional means that which is changing, to the absolute identity, which means that which is not changing. This one shift is the key to everything. Okay, then we can say, okay, you can take vitamins, you can take antioxidants, you can take anti-inflammatories, because you see that all these entities are also modalities of experience. You can do yoga, you can do breath, you can do this, that, the other, but who or what is doing it is more important. Once you get to know who or what is doing it, then you see that what we call existence, and by existence we don't have to be fancy, that which exists. Right now, this experience exists. Right now, this hand exists. Right now, this book exists. Right now. So let's not complicate what is existence. That which exists, that which we are experiencing, this existence has two components to it. One is it is ceaselessly changing in every moment. Every thought is changing, every molecule is changing, every idea is changing, ceaselessly, eternally changing. And then the other aspect, it is not changing. So both time and eternity are aspects of I. The most important thing is you can slowly shift your identity to I am having this experience in time, but I am not in time. But that not intellectually, experientially. Every time you put your attention in this space, do it right now. Put your attention in this space. Time stops. Become aware of yourself. Time stops. And what is our body? It's the metabolism of time. This comes from Yoga Vishishta. Time is the consumer and we are its food. It's from Yoga Vishishta. Time is the consumer, we are its food. We are time's food. But when he says we, he means body, mind, ego, personality, and the world experience is time's food. But you and I are not in time. The real I. This one shift, and then everything else becomes very easy. So this pure witnessing awareness. And there's a movement right now in non-dual traditions. They say, take a stand as witnessing awareness. Take a stand as witnessing awareness. So anytime you feel stressed, anytime you have a turbulent mind, then just shift to that in which this whole thing is happening. Or shift to this space. This space, by the way, in Vedanta, it is called Chit Akash. Chit means consciousness, and Akash means the infinite space. The infinite space is full of. So what I was going to do is, what's up? I don't know what our perception of time is, but huh? Okay. So I was going to read to you just a few of my notes, the old paradigm and the new paradigm, and then I'll share with you how this relates to longevity. There are many things that we're going to do in the longevity experiment, but how this relates to. So the old paradigm, which is still the current scientific paradigm, it's called naive realism, says there's an objective world independent of the observer, and our bodies are aspects of this objective world. So if there's an objective world independent of an observer, how do you prove it? How do you prove an observer-independent world? You can only say that the world exists if you observe it, right? So right off the bat, we're what we call naive realism doesn't seem real, right? The body is composed of clumps of matter separated from one another in time and space. So my body is separate from your body and composed of matter, but actually that's also technically not true. Every atom in your body is recycling right now from all the other atoms in all the other bodies. So if you do radioactive isotope studies, mathematically, you can compute that right this moment in your body, you have 1,000,000 atoms that were once in the body of Christ or Buddha or Jesus. Same atoms recycling. In just the last 1 year, 1,000,000 atoms have gone through your body, that have gone through the body of every other species on this planet. So your body is recycling with all the other bodies, not only human, but everything else, plants, etc. Mind and body are separate, independent from each other. How can you say that? Now, for every thought, you have a corresponding biological response. Every thought I speak, this vibration is occurring. Body and mind are inseparably one. Human awareness can be completely explained as the product of biochemistry. It's the other way around. The biochemistry is an expression of our experiences. Our perception of the world is automatic. No, we learn to perceive. Time exists as an absolute. We are captives of the absolute. No, time is relative. Not only did the first theory of relativity show us that time slows down when you move fast, but the second theory of relativity showed us that time is also affected by the gravitational field, that there are aspects in this universe where you get to a certain singularity where time stops altogether. Our true nature is defined by our body, ego, and personality. Of course not. Body, ego, and personality are changing at all times. And finally, because of all this impermanence, we suffer. And we suffer because of disease, infirmity, etc., etc. So the spiritual traditions say that all human suffering, we're not talking about suffering in other animals. Every species is subject to suffering. But humans have a different kind of suffering. We call it existential suffering. At some point, everybody confronts it. Okay, somebody dies in the family, or you are diagnosed to have cancer or something, okay, a terminal illness, or a pet dies, and you're a child. We start to suffer grief. So humans have a different kind of suffering. It's called existential suffering. At some point, you recognize that everything you took for granted comes and goes like a dream. So these causes of suffering in the Vedanta, they are described as kleshas, Kleshas. It means causes of human suffering. And they are usually identified as 5 causes of suffering. Only 5, thank God. Okay. First is not knowing your true self. You confuse yourself with your experiences. Your true self is the witnessing awareness. The second cause of suffering is grasping and clinging at experience which is ephemeral, which is transient, which is ungraspable. Say, grasp this experience right now. Grasp the words I articulated when I started the lecture. Do you even remember the sequence? So, grasping at experience which is ungraspable. Third cause of suffering is recoiling from experience, which is also ungraspable. Fourth is identifying with your skin encapsulated imaginary self, which we call the ego. And the fifth is fear of death. Period. How convenient. And then the Vedanta says all you have to do is discover the answer to who am I, and everything else disappears. Everything else disappears. Because who you are is timeless. Who we are is without cause. Who you are is synchronicity, the symphony of the universe. Who you are is the source of choice, of attention, intention. Who you are is creativity, insight, imagination, vision, purpose, but all in the field of change. Who you are is immeasurable. You're the immeasurable potential for all experience, past, present, and future. So with that, the Vedanta has created maps. Okay. And remember, when I speak of maps, maps are maps, they're not the territory. Just like a menu is a menu, you can't eat the menu, you have to eat the food. So no matter what kind of map you use, theological, scientific, technological, it's still a map. But the map helps you explore the territory. Okay? Helps you. If I know that the map from Boston to New York is this, then I can explore this territory. I can use a road map, I can use a railway map, I can use an aerial map, I can use a contour map, I can even actually from New York to Boston take a ship. There are many ways to explore the territory, but the territory is not the map. So in this mapping that we are discovering today through the Vedanta, there are 7 stages of the evolution of consciousness. The first stage that we become aware of is this waking state. Right now, we're in the waking state, I hope. Yeah, you're not asleep. So in the waking state, we say this is real, but this is not real because this will be over in a few moments. In fact, even my words are not real because by the time you hear them, they're gone. Okay? But right now, you're in the waking state, which is a lucid dream in a vivid now. But the now remains the same, but the dream is changing. This experience is changing right now. 1 hour from now, we'll be having another experience. This will be a dream, even though right now it doesn't appear to be a dream. So this is how we become aware. As kids, what is this? Every kid is surprised. But then we take away the surprise. You know, you're Deepak, you're Indian, you're born to this family, this is the national anthem. The rupees, dollar is trading at such and such. You get bamboozled into the hypnosis of this, what we call reality. But it's not. It's a shifting dream. The second state of awareness is the dream we have at night, which is also a shifting dream. Third experience we have is deep sleep, when all experience disappears. except the remnants of memory and experience which resurface when you wake up in the morning. So everybody is familiar with these three states, and you can have a lifetime go by and not know there is anything more. A lifetime go by. This is the tragedy. This is what happens. A lifetime goes by, waking, dreaming, sleeping. And then the end, oh, there you are. It's all over. I made a lot of money, but now I have to leave it. You know, I did such and such, I fell in love, I have to leave all these people. I cultivated my body, I have to leave it. So, waking, dreaming, and sleeping is a waste of a life. The fourth state is called glimpsing your soul, or glimpsing the observer, or becoming aware of awareness, which we just did. Use anything. You can use meditation, mindfulness, there are many ways. But when you cultivate the presence of the observer, then what you discover is the real you is not hard to find. The real you is impossible to ignore. And if there's God as the divine, ultimate, pure consciousness, then God is not difficult to find. God is impossible to avoid. Why? Because awareness is present in every experience. This book is a modified form of awareness. So is this, so is my hand. Where is awareness? It's everywhere. It's omnipresent. It's the source of all the energy in the world. It's omnipotent, infinite energy, infinite possibilities for manifestation, and infinite presence everywhere. And where is that? Right here, now. So when we glimpse our soul, that leads us to a new state of being. And our brain changes, our biology changes, our perception changes, everything, our relationships change. Because we're coming from witnessing awareness. That's called the fourth state. The fifth state is when the witness gets established fully in waking, dreaming, and sleeping. So your body is fast asleep, but you as the witness are aware of the body in sleeping. Your body is dreaming, you as the witness are aware that the body is dreaming. Your body is playing tennis, but you are aware that that body is playing tennis. That fifth state is called cosmic consciousness, local and non-local consciousness at the same time. Or in the expression of Teilhard de Chardin, I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. Or I'm a non-local being, I'm having a human experience, a local experience. William Blake, eternity is in love with the productions of time. I am in love with the productions of time, with the experience I created. So that's the fifth stage. It's called Turiya Tata. The fourth stage is called Turiya. The sixth state is called divine consciousness, where you have the experience of the witnessing awareness in every object of perception, in the space and in between the space. If I could experience not only me as the witnessing witness, but you also, then you, the witness, and I, the witness, would commune without verbal communication. It's called telepathy, non-local correlation, divine. When we have that experience, when the ever-present witnessing awareness wakes up not only in the subject of experience, but the objects of experience, that's when you can commune. That's, by the way, in spiritual traditions, that's the realm of miracles, that's the realm of non-local dormant potentials, knowing the past, knowing the future, knowing several lifetimes, remote healing, clairvoyance, clairaudience, everything that we call psychic, it's not. It's just being in the presence at all times. That's called the sixth state of consciousness. And then there's the seventh state of consciousness, which in these traditions is called enlightenment. Suddenly you realize that the witness here and the witness there and the witness everywhere is one witness. And that witness is experiencing itself as the total universe right now. So that one witness is called Brahman, and the total universe is called Brahmand. So this is our journey, this is our map. This is the current map that we are exploring, and we'll explore it more. In each state of biology, consciousness changes, the brain changes, perception changes. Here are six things that change very dramatically. One is perception. You no longer see objects. You see objects as experiences in yourself. And there's clarity of perception. Clarity. And there's also the knowledge that by shifting my perception, I shift my reality. That's the first thing. And we have research on this, by the way, published research. Not that it matters, who cares ultimately if you have the experience. Okay. So perception changes, number one. Clarity of perception, present moment perception. Don't see objects, only experiences, and they're an extension of myself. Second thing that changes, cognition. Mind becomes quiet. Use thought only when you need to. So mind becomes quiet. The internal dialogue gets slower. Experience of time expands as a result. Why? Because the experience of time is dependent on the internal dialogue. I'm running out of time. Your biological clock will speed up. Don't ever say that, I'm running out of time. I have so many deadlines, horrible metaphor. Okay? So if you use the expression, I'm running out of time, you might get a heart attack and run out of time. Okay? I have all the time in the world. I have eternity because I'm present to the witness which is eternal. People have this experience. When they fall in love, there's no time. Right? Why? Because the observer and the observed have become one. No time. Lover and beloved become one. No time. Observer, seer, and scenery become one. No time. So that's the second shift. Time slows down. Body's metabolism slows down. Can you create a metabolism in the body which is the equivalent of deep sleep even while you're giving a lecture? Or even when you're playing tennis? How about that? We would have a completely different experience of aging. Third thing that changes. So perception changes, cognition changes. Third thing, emotions. No longer this anxiety, this fear, this guilt, this shame, all as a result of a false identity. Spontaneous emergence of love, compassion, joy, peace, equanimity. So the thing that changes is emotions. Fourth thing that changes is how we use memory. We are not victimized by memory. In the Shiva Sutras, I use memory, but I don't allow memories to use me. Fifth thing that changes, identity, sense of self, from I am this situation to I am the eternal witness. And the sixth thing that changes is sense of agency. It's not my ego identity that is having an experience. Even the ego identity is an experience in me. So sense of self and sense of agency. When you shift the sense of agency, you're no longer subject to determinism or what is called karma. Instead of being in karmic bondage, you become a creator. Now, each of these stages defines its own biology. And that's what we'll be exploring, ultimately. Every stage of shift in our awareness What's happening to biology? What's happening to brain waves? What's happening to inflammation? What's happening to self-regulation? Because as we move up the hierarchy of our true identity, what we call reality changes. And then we become masters of our own biology. And that's where the 8 limbs of yoga also fit in, which we can talk about at another time. So today, that's all I wanted to share with you. The metabolism of experience, the metabolism of time, and the eternal absolute I am, which is not in time. And this has relevance to everything we do, our personal interactions, our social interactions, the environment we find ourselves in, our daily habits of eating, breathing, digestion, metabolism, elimination, our sensory experience of life, and the choices we make, all determined by a shift in our identity from the waking dream to the sleeping dream to deep sleep to soul consciousness to cosmic consciousness to divine consciousness, ultimately unity consciousness. And so I'll end with a little phrase, a little quote from T.S. Eliot. We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of our exploring is to arrive where we started from and know the place for the first time. Through. It's called Fireside, new startup by Mark Cuban.
Okay, done. So you just Q&A.
Q&A is for us, but it's going on.
It's done.
Even the YouTube is done?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Any questions? It's just for us. Hogwash. Did it make a little bit of sense?
So the moment we bring awareness to this existence, we create. Is that correct?
If existence, this is a good question.